Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Let's ride with the family.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani. I am with the charming David Cohen, and we are discussing the Flintstones. Yes?
The Flintstones?
No, I threw you a curve. We're actually going to be discussing who is the best next-door neighbor on TV in all of history. So that's...
Are you saying Barney Rubble?
I'm starting
Thereby?
with Barney Rubble because I want to see what the reaction is on that. I think that's someone that's in the running. He is, one of the icons, at least, of comicdom.
A great actor, too.
And he's been going on and on and on. Who is he modeled after? You have any idea?
Of course.
Well,
Do you want me to give it away?
Yeah, why not?
Ed Norton on The Honeymooners.
Yes, so we're going to compare those two just to get the ball rolling a little bit. But let's define what we're talking about when we talk about Next Door Neighbor on TV.
Yes.
Must be a sitcom. And this person's not necessarily the focus of the show. The person's not in every scene. They'll be coming in and out of the show for comic relief, usually, but at least as a foil to build the show around or as an accent to the main
So
characters.
they have my role, basically, on this radio show.
Except I think they actually read and memorize the script. But other than that, yes.
Ouch.
Not that we have a script, but...
And not that we don't get it at the 10th hour, 11th hour.
No, at 1 o'clock in the morning the day before we record. Just as an aside, I just wanted to take a moment to welcome to our growing list of affiliates a station that's in Jackson, California, which is around Sacramento. KVGC, the voice of the Gold Country.
Excellent, yes.
Yes, so we're very, very happy to be on that station, and we're played every Saturday night at 6 o'clock p.m., so tune in if you're out there. And certainly they have a website also to listen to their other shows. It's a great little station, and we're very, very happy to be expanding. Let's listen to a little bit back to the point here of what Barney Rubble has done on the Flintstone. Let's hear some of his best
She's
work.
ready. She's ready. I got it.
Barney, where's Fred?
Oh, he's out in the car with you.
I'm not out in the car, Barney.
Don't worry, Wilma. I'll get you to the hospital in time.
Barney, how can you foul things up like this?
We got it straight now, Wilma. If only Barney remains calm. Oh, I'm calm, Fred, but I don't think Wilma is.
I mean, he's sort of the backbone of that show.
He is. He held things together.
Bear in mind, though, in the 60s, the Flintstones weren't like a Saturday afternoon kind of a cartoon. This was a prime time television show like The Simpsons.
I guess.
It really was, and it was built on The Honeymooners, which was so popular and still running, but not in its half-hour format. It was on the Jackie Gleason show when he was broadcasting down in Miami every Sunday night. But let's listen to a little bit of the Honeymooners mix, a little bit of Ed Norton's participation there, and see if we can compare.
I got it now, Norton. Hello, boy. I don't know anybody does the mambo. I don't do it. Norton doesn't do it. My grandmother never did it.
Who is the composer of Swanee River?
Ed Norton. All right, get out. Get out.
Out of the way, girls. Some men are going to do some drinking. Clear the field.
Everything's going real fast. The table ain't level.
That's our man, huh?
Well, it was more. You did more of Ralph than you did of Ed. But.
Well, I was trying to reference the idea that he's intricate, that Ralph is always talking to him. He's a sounding board, and that's pretty much what Barney Rubble is. And I just think the idea is really, of course, Barney Rubble's not going to be in the running here. But the point is that this character, Ed Norton, is so iconic that they made a cartoon out of it, and that character was pretty close to Ed Norton, and I think should be one of the finalists, I think, in the best next door neighbor of all time.
Ed Norton, not Barney Rubble. You're saying
that? Yeah, I would say that would be the case. Maybe we'll use that as our soundtrack when we actually do something or think we say something funny. We'll play that.
That's Barney Rubble. That was but the voices. If you listen to it, the voices are so similar, so obvious a ripoff. The Flintstones from, Fred and Ralph and
yeah, they the kind of, what would you say, almost
intonation,
their accents. Right. There also was a great. I'm just going to go to the side here. Great guest star that the Flintstones developed a couple of years into their run. Tell me if you could see who this voice is.
Hey, I get it. We're having a dream, Bon.
Oh, thank goodness. I was getting worried.
You doubt the powers of the great Kazoo? If I were you two, I wouldn't look a gift sorcerer in the mouth.
Okay. Don't get mad.
Hey, we got something big here, Bon.
Yeah. Start small. Like taking the girls to the Chateau Rockin' Blue tonight.
Yeah, sounds great to me.
That's
Kazoo.
Yes, that's the great Kazoo. Who is that voice?
I don't know.
Really? Oh, okay, good. I'm glad I got you. That's Harvey Korman.
I did not know that.
Yes. Where is Harvey Korman from?
Carol Burnett show.
Carol Burnett, a number of those Mel Brooks movies.
Right.
Yeah, he was classic. He was the character that Tim Conway would always crack up on Saturday nights when they did their skits on Carol Burnett.
So
right?
did the Honeymooners they didn't have a kazoo equivalent in the Honeymooners?
No, that was a very original idea that the writers of the Flintstones developed.
Is that when the Flintstones started to jump the shark when they had kazoo on?
I think this is another show. This is sounding familiar to a show that we did a little ways back, a 9-show epic on what was the best sitcom of all time.
Yes,
which the Honeymooners came in the final 3.
And sometimes when they introduced a character that just was ridiculous, they said that the show jumped the shark.
Yes,
I think
Kazoo was from outer space, right? Is that what it was?
It was from outer space. It's crazy,
ridiculous to remember.
Not that cavemen were able to roam the earth with dinosaurs, as the Flintstones demonstrated. That I could buy, but the outer space.
I wonder if we're spending a little too much time on the Flintstones here.
Maybe.
Let's turn the page a little bit and go to another show from the 50s and see if you like these two next-door neighbors.
Joanne is quitting. Who's Joanne?
Oh, that's terrible.
Who's Joanne? At a time like this, though. Who's Joanne?
Why did she quit?
Who's Joanne? Who's getting married?
Who's Joanne? She's the girl that dances with Ricky.
Now, what was I doing wrong?
Lucy, is that my date? He's no dream, he's a nightmare.
Is that your idea of a cute young chick? You'll never shop for my poultry.
I got an awful problem on my hands.
You should have thought of that before you married her.
The quips back and forth from who?
I Love Lucy.
Yes, and that's Fred and Ethel Mertz.
Fred and Ethel Mertz.
Well, that show had two next-door neighbors. Of course, they were married, but they qualify as two next-door neighbors because they didn't always come into the scenes together.
Right.
And that Ethel Mertz, which was Vivian Vance.
Yes.
Very, very talented. She did so many of these shows that Lucy did. After the I Love Lucy show, she had the Lucy show. She was on that as well as the best, well, I shouldn't say the best, but as her next door neighbor, was always involved in all the antics and so forth. Someone great that Lucy played off of. So I think more than maybe Fred, who has those great lines, Ethel might be in the running there. What do you think?
Yeah, I heard she was a horrible person in real life.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, just really hard to work with, and yeah, I'm being serious.
Has she passed away?
I'm sure.
Good, then you can say anything you want.
Excellent.
We would get no trouble with anybody on that.
I don't care what is she going to do? Come down here and kick my behind?
You know what? Yeah, worst case, she comes in and actually has an interview with us.
Come on, Ethel. Okay. Bring it on.
I didn't hear that, but how did Lucille Ball get along with her then?
I don't think they did.
All right,
I don't think they did.
All right, let's go back and listen to a little something here that it's some fun. We'll be right back after this to continue our discussion. Just wanted to throw this in there.
Jackie Gleason.
Now that's, of course, where Ed Norton made his big mark. He was the foil. There are memorable lines that go on and on and on. Are there memorable lines for Ethel or Fred Mertz? I mean, as to what we've talked about so far, where are we, you think, on this best next door neighbor?
So who's in the running? Barney Rubble? No, he's not in the running.
We're throwing him out. Great Kazoo doesn't count.
Great Kazoo doesn't count. So we basically have Ed Norton and Fred and Ethel.
Correct.
Well, I think you could throw out Fred and Ethel very easily.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's Ed Norton again.
I can't remember one thing Fred and Ethel have ever said that have made me laugh. Or he was an old man, and she looked much older than she probably was. What were they doing hanging around with Ricky and Lucy? They were like 40 years older than them.
You're right. It was. I just love the way he wore those pants, though. You notice the pants rid way up to his
man boobs.
chest. Yeah. What a good guy. I heard he was great to work with, but I don't know why his counterpart was Vivian Vance was so difficult.
Who was the actor that played? Do you remember his name?
Hit me there because I don't know. Frawley, William Frawley. Yeah. He was around for quite some time before.
Yeah, you knew him, right? You and he go back.
We go back. We were drinking buddies back in the day. And in fact, I wear my pants the way he used to wear them now.
That's true. I can vouch for that.
I wear my sweatpants right up. Yeah, it's it's a fun time at the house. Let me put it this way. We've progressed a little bit. We're having some fun with this discussion. I want to now take you from the 50s into the 60s and 70s, which I think was the heyday of the Next Door Neighbor. So we'll be right back after this.
This is Davros from Doctor Who, and you are listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen. Be very afraid.
Welcome back. Everything Old is New Again. We are discussing who is the best next-door neighbor of all time. I referenced there, I should just quiz. That's kind of an iconic song, but where's that song from?
I Love Lucy.
There you go. No, it's I Dream of Jeannie, of course. And I don't know, we probably should do a show on the theme songs of sitcoms or of shows in general.
Absolutely.
Which are the best ones and all that. That is, I don't know if anybody under 30 knows that. Do you think they do?
Under 30?
Yeah.
Probably not.
They do. We're getting our engineer to say yes, and he's definitely under 30. So, all right, I'm going to go for that. I mean, how do you not know Jeannie, I guess? And so if you know her, you know her theme.
Oh, gosh.
Let's not go down that road.
What road? The Barbara Eden road with the two-piece thingy? All right, fine. We won't go down that road.
Everyone's thinking of that now, but I want to change.
You want to talk about Roger Healy.
Yeah, I want to talk about Bill Daly, Roger Healy. It's sort of a different discussion, but he...
It's a very different discussion.
Exactly.
Let's make that clear.
It's sort of like taking figuratively speaking, a cold shower, right?
Yes,
when I
exactly.
mention his name next to Jeannie. But
thanks for that, by the way. I'm
trying to keep us straight and narrow here. The point is that Bill Daly, who was the actor of Roger Healy, I think in the 60s and 70s, at that point in time, was the next door neighbor of the era. No?
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead, yeah.
No, but why? There's a reason for it. Which, go ahead, play your clip.
Well, tell me what the reason. You can tell me.
Because he was a neighbor in 2 different shows. How many people can you say about that?
I can't think of any, tell you the truth, other than him. Because he was just he was there, and he was
there.
He was the omnipresent next door neighbor. For one,
we're supposed to play golf today.
Oh, I'm sorry, Raj. I forgot all about it. I told Jeannie I'd help her around the house today.
How about going over to the club? We'll play a little gin, huh?
I can't, Raj. I promised Jeannie I'd take her to lunch today.
Jeannie.
Why don't you join us?
No, I'm not hungry. I had lunch yesterday.
I don't know that it was really. When I went through clips and was watching the show, it wasn't exactly hysterical like Ed Norton was for sure. But he was there. He was grounded. He grounded the show. And I don't know. What did you think of?
I thought he was really funny as Roger Healy.
Okay.
Major Healy, what are you doing? Remember that he was always in trouble with Tony or part of the hijinks.
Yeah. So he always wanted. If I remember, it was so great. He always wanted, and this is what I would be like as the next door neighbor. If I was the next door neighbor to what's his name that has the genie, forget his name,
Larry Hagman.
There you go.
Tony.
If I was Tony's next, I should have prepared for that. You think I would know that?
Yeah, you got to read the script out that you wrote.
I eliminated him completely. I just thought of Jeannie and Bill Daly. Anyway, I would ask for Jeannie to give me a wish or something, Jeannie's.
If you were Major Healy.
And that's what Major Healy wanted all the time. I remember that as being the shtick. Anyway.
She never did it for him, though, right?
No.
Never granted that wish.
No, she wasn't in love with him. Let's hear what happens on Newhart with this guy.
Let me see. Is the queen worth more than the horse?
It's called a knight, huh?
Yeah, well, that looks like a horse to me.
The queen is worth 3 of those.
Oh, well, then I'll protect my queen with my horse.
Take your horse, your knight, with my bishop.
Then I'll just say checkers.
Checkmate.
Whatever.
Howard, you've played chess before, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I played once. You want to play for money this time?
All right, so of course the joke there, want to play for money, and it's very subtle. Different show, different
So
type
just
of
to
humor.
be clear, we're talking about the actor Bill Daly, who played Roger Healy on I Dream of Jeannie, and then Howard Gorman.
Yes.
On the Bob Newhart
show from the 70s, and he played it a little differently, which was interesting, and it was certainly playing off a different type of situation. And Bob Newhart was much more serious in terms of his character than Tony Nelson was, and all that was going on with Jeannie.
There were no hijinks in the Bob Newhart show.
But he fit in. I thought it was funnier, to tell you the truth, on the Newhart show than on I Dream of Jeannie. Yeah.
Huh.
So he was one of the ones that to me in the 60s and 70s was the iconic next door neighbor. But there's one other that gives him a run for his money.
Give me, please. I'm so sorry. How are things with you? How's good old Laws? Oh, Lars is dead, Rhoda. Same old Laws. No, I mean, he really passed away. God, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Phyllis. I didn't... Oh, Mary, why didn't you tell me? I thought surely Phyllis had told you. Phyllis, why didn't you tell me? I was afraid you might want to come to the funeral. So how's Joe? Oh, Joe and I have split up. I thought you'd heard. I had.
She actually took the world by the what's that saying? The world by
storm.
Storm. Well, yeah, because she really at the time she was on Time magazine.
We're talking about Rhoda.
You're right.
On the Mary Tyler Moore show.
Yes, and she really. Was the talk of the time. I think she was so acerbic, and so she had the quick wit compared to Mary Tyler Moore, and in that show.
With that New York attitude, because on the show she moved from New York to Minnesota.
Yes, exactly. So, and then later on, she's one of the only next door neighbors, other than Phyllis, who was in that scene with her as well, that got their own show that was actually successful.
You're right.
Try, to show us or present to us a show by sending us an email to oldnewagain@aol.com, or go on our website, everythingoldisnewagain.biz, and there's a mail section there. Send us a note if you know anyone else that was a next door neighbor that actually got a spinoff that was successful. I challenge that. I don't think there is one.
Yeah, the whole Jefferson family.
I really don't think there is one. I'm going to stick with that. Well, but yes, but then again, the Jeffersons were there for like 1 year, and they were on like All in the Family like 5 times. Just going to say, I'll have to research that to challenge that. But let's talk about, or let's have Valerie Harper, who's the actress, tell us a little bit about what it was like to move off of a show, because she knew very well that could have been the kiss of death for her and her character.
I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to. She said, you don't want to be my sidekick all your life. I said, yes, I do. I said, what if it fails? She said, if it fails, you'll move back to Minneapolis. And I thought, that's working with Annette, isn't it? And Nancy Walker said to me, I don't know if I should leave. This is a very comfortable berth. I've won Emmys. And she said, Valerie, it's a job. Take it.
I mean, this is, again, Valerie Harper talking about Mary Tyler Moore, telling her, and what a great offer this was. Listen, if it doesn't work, come on back.
Right.
And by the way, that's how strong that character was. But she was like, listen, I'll have this person back if this show fails. I don't care. I want her back on Mary Tyler Moore.
And they were a great team. Mary and Rhoda, the characters on that show, because they were very different from each other, yet there was a lot of it you attributed to the writing and to the acting. But it was a great combo, and it worked well on her own. Rhoda was on for a while, right?
Yes, it was. It was a pretty good show, absolutely. Referencing All in the Family, Rob Reiner comes into this discussion not really as a next door neighbor, because that didn't happen on All in the Family till later, but he was responsible for the birth of other next door neighbors in the 70s that were kind of iconic, Lenny and Squiggy. Let's see if we can hear what that's about.
We were old pals, and we had created these characters a long time before that, time before the show. We thought that those characters were the least commercial things we did. Penny sold this show, and they needed some more support. And so we came to this party, and Rob Reiner, who says, do those guys you do. So we did something we had never done before. I have no idea what we said, but we got a lot of laughs, and the two producers said, these guys are pretty good.
So there he is, the actor for Lenny and Squiggy, and I forget his name.
Well, I forget his name too, but he went on to do a lot of things.
Oh yeah, he was in Waiting
for Guffman, that whole genre.
Yeah, and that one with the band. The
folk music, yeah,
and the other one, the fictitious band, wasn't prepared for that. Long story short,
a Spinal
Tap.
Right.
There we go. He was in Spinal Tap. It was tremendous.
Right.
That whole thing with Lenny and Squiggy. I don't know if you remember that. What happened when Laverne
we're
and
such
Shirley.
experts on this, aren't we? We can't remember actors' names. We don't know what the names of the shows.
But I know that Lenny and Squiggy were a big hit back then. I don't know why.
Yes.
To tell you the truth, they really were annoying.
I'll tell you, because when they came on in a scene, it was the audience knew, because Laverne and Shirley would always make some reference to something about idiocy or being stupid, and boom, on cue they'd come in.
Really, just like on cue, we would hear. I love this. This is my favorite. Their theme song.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hassendampf Incorporated.
Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by the law office of Douglas Viviani. Douglas Viviani has been providing quality legal service for over 26 years. We're a general practice firm and can handle any legal matter you may have for a reasonable fee. If you're involved in a car accident, starting a business, planning your estate, or need a criminal attorney, please call 631-681-1910 or email us at vivianilaw@aol.com for a free consultation. Get the justice you deserve. Contact the law office of Douglas Viviani at vivianilaw@aol.com. This show is sponsored by ResumeDoctorInc.com. When you're looking to change your career, apply for a promotion, or find a job, your resume is the first thing that's seen represents you to a potential employer. Make sure your resume makes a clear, concise, and professional impression of who you are so you can get the job. Send your resume to ResumeDoctorInc@AOL.com for a free online review. You'll receive a reasonable quote to properly prepare your resume. Let us make sure you have a resume that will get you noticed. Send your resume or questions to ResumeDoctorInc@AOL.com. That's ResumeDoctorInc.
Okay, what is happening now, Jay?
Well, we're going to return to Everything Old is New Again with Doug and Dave.
Oh, okay. I got nothing else better to do.
We're looking for an apartment we can share. Here's one. It sounds good. 2 bedroom, 1.5 bar, wire-to-wire curtains, with burr, derps, and furple. What's wrong with your mouth?
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That, of course, is Lenny and Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley.
I thought they were funny. It was just so slapstick and silly. I like those guys.
I love the fact that they were just an afterthought for the producers of the show. Saw them at a party with Rob Reiner introducing them, and they did something ad lib, pro hoc vice, as we say in the law. And they went ahead and just did a skit that was so funny that most of the time we were on the show, we understand these skits, these little bits were them improving and getting them on those skits on the show thereafter. That's cool for the producers. So they were pretty funny. But I don't think that they rise to the level of this guy.
I found the toe, so I put it in a Cracker Jack box, filled it with ice, and took off for the hospital. I told the driver, I got a toe here, buddy, step on it. Then, all of a sudden, this guy pulls out a gun. So I got out of the seat and I started walking towards him. Knocked him out cold. How could you do that? The bus is out of control. See, I get behind the wheel, now I'm driving the bus.
You're Batman.
Yeah, I am Batman. Then the mugger, he comes to and he starts choking me. So I'm fighting him off with one hand and I kept driving the bus with the other. And I managed to open up the door and I kicked him out the door, with my foot, at the next stop.
You kept making all the stops?
Well, people kept ringing the bell.
That's
How do you beat that guy?
You can't.
I mean, he doesn't need to feed off of anybody in that story, but it's so classic. The one or two lines that are thrown in there by Jerry Seinfeld and Costanza they just lend into that so beautifully. He did something I would say every show that's memorable, just like an Ed Norton character. If nothing else, just his the way he walked into the room, or his antics with I don't know, with the different schemes he had and stuff like that. He was hysterical.
He was unique. He was one of a kind.
Yeah, just a very physical comedy, but also. I don't have to call it intellectual, but conversational as well, which is very rare. I think Art Carney did the same. But other than that, I don't think anybody else rise to the level of those two. Maybe Bill Daly, we were talking about,
right? Maybe,
and Rhoda really wasn't physical. She was just her quips. So she's in the discussion, but I don't think she's to the level of this guy Kramer. But we have another contestant a little later in time from the King of Queens, if you remember Arthur.
Sunday. Fun day. Okay, I got a couple problems here. Let's start with this one. Why do your socks have big 4s on the bottom?
It's my new system. I label them so I don't mix them up with my other sets of socks. Obviously, you've never heard of toe memory. As a sock evolves, it either becomes a left sock or a right sock.
But how do the 4s tell you which one's a right and which one's a left?
Look, Douglas, my system has its flaws. But I've come at this from every angle, and believe me, there is no better way.
Unless you just label every sock with either an L or an R.
Well, there goes my fun day!
Dave is not as much as a fan of it as I am.
King of Queens.
I love it, and I think that
you thought that clip was funny.
I do, and I think that he's not Kramer, but if you watch that show and give it a try, you will see that it's. Listen, besides him, I don't know that there's anybody else that I can think of that we haven't mentioned yet that's in this ballpark. Well, he's funny. He's classic. He's a different type of next door neighbor because he's acerbic and he's not supportive, but he is a comedy foil.
Yes, he is a next door neighbor. I think that should be mentioned. But I think there's one or two in this era that we're neglecting. Could I mention them real fast?
Feel free.
One is Skippy from Family Ties. Skippy was Alex's friend, I guess, or just a kid that used to stop by. I thought he was pretty funny. He was a foil for the show. And let's not forget about, remember One Day at a Time?
Yes.
Schneider, the janitor, who also lived in the building, could be considered a next-door neighbor. Schneider, I thought he was Pat... I forget his name.
Harrington.
Pat Harrington, very good. Yes. Wow, you pulled that one out. I thought Schneider was really funny, and I think he was the... one of the funniest things about that show, actually.
Yeah, that actor had lots and lots of experience back in the day. He was on shows and other shows that he was able to exhibit some comedy experience, some comedy chops. But I don't know that they gave him so much that was so extraordinarily funny, like we heard Kramer with that story about being Batman and all of this. But if you want to mention them, yes, they're in the game. But I think that they're hitting singles as opposed to the home runs that Kramer and Norton at this point hit.
Well, because they weren't featured as much as Norton or Kramer, and so that gives them a little unfair advantage.
Unless they weren't featured for a reason. We'll get into that in a few minutes. I'd rather discuss. Dave's giving me a look at the subject because there's always a time we have to fight with the clock here. Who would you hate to live next to?
Okay,
my first person right off the bat has got to be this character.
Did I do that? Did I do that?
I mean, this Urkel from Family Matters, I have to just give him credit because the first 12, 13 episodes of that show they were canceling that show. And they introduced this character and he took off like crazy.
Yeah.
And I think he was on Dancing with the Stars recently, too.
He was.
Actor, yes.
He was.
So, he is...
Why did you hate him?
In the whole scene of Next Door Neighbors, how would you like to have that character, knocking on your door asking for...
he was annoying.
For sugar.
He was
annoying.
I
mean, it's not really something I'm interested in.
Right,
who's your
enough.
least favorite?
My least favorite? Do you remember Home Improvement, right?
Yes.
The guy Wilson, the next door neighbor? Ugh. Disdain. I have disdain.
Why?
Because it was just so hokey, and the wise next door neighbor. You never saw his face. Isn't that clever? I didn't like the concept of him. I don't think it added anything to the show. I think it was a gimmick, and it was just
Yeah, if I watched the show, I would have to agree with you, but I never did, probably because of that. Let's listen to another character.
You never told us why she's staying with you in the first place.
She just turned up on my doorstep, and I said something terrible.
Well, what did you say?
I said, come in.
Can't you say get out?
Oh, I wish I could, but Felicia's the only daughter of my mother's best friend's sister. Or is she the only sister of my mother's best friend's daughter?
Now, this is Bentley from Jeffersons, which is interesting because according to your scenario, the Jeffersons kind of are in the discussion of the best next door neighbor.
You totally forgot them. Yes, they are definitely in discussion as a next door neighbor.
I disagree, but
you forgot the Jeffersons.
But this is the next door neighbor.
Admit it.
I didn't forget. I eliminated them on purpose. But Bentley is the next door neighbor of the Jeffersons, so it's
a neighbor of a neighbor.
Neighbor of a neighbor. So does he qualify because he's a neighbor of a neighbor? No, but that's the Jeffersons. Of course, had their own show,
right?
And he was on all the time.
Yes, Bentley was good. I like Bentley.
He was good, but again, I don't want that guy knocking on my door either.
He was a bit creepy,
to say the least.
Right.
This is the guy that I want knocking on my door.
Oh, you doesn't have to call me Johnson. My name is Raymond J. Johnson Jr. Now, you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, or you can call me RJ, or you can call me RJJ, or you can call me RJJ Jr. But you doesn't have to call me Johnson.
We're hearkening back to the show.
How is he a neighbor? He wasn't even a neighbor. What does he have to do with the show?
That is a selfless or a, what would you say, a bad way to segue to the idea that we did a show on... Where did we do Johnson from just recently?
How late were you up doing this? How did this guy come into your brain while we're doing Next Door Neighbor?
We did catchphrases, and he was in that show. So take a listen to our show on catchphrases.
I'm trying to follow the logic.
I'm getting there. Everythingoldisnewagain.biz. For all of you new listeners, we've had quite a bit of fun before you've come on board. And please join us. We'd love to hear what you have to say and listen to our show on the podcast. Everythingoldisnewagain.biz. At this point, let's listen to a little of this. That harkens back to Fred and Ethel Mertz there, and I wanted to just have a quick summary then, because at the beginning of the show we started with the 50s. Now we're at basically the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Is there anyone other than who we've discussed that you think should be discussed as the best next door neighbor before we examine who we've got in the pool?
No, I think we covered everything. Weren't we going to talk about who we would like to be our next door neighbor?
We can do that right after the commercials because we're running short on time.
So what do we talk about now?
Longer discussion. We could talk about...
But don't say Johnson.
Why do you hate Johnson so much? You're never going to get it.
Well, I just don't know. So it was a promo you were doing, Johnson.
I was trying to, but I was being shot down there.
Listen, just let me know when you do things like that. That's all I ask. Because it was just out of left field. I didn't know where you were going with it.
Because sometimes what I want to do is I want to shock you, and I want to get the actual live response. Of what you feel hearing that.
I think I think it was a good idea for a promo. Don't get me wrong, I do. But it backfired because I jumped all over you for it because I didn't know why you were doing it.
Yeah, I think it's a personality flaw more than anything else.
Your personality,
or yours, or maybe that's part of the Laverne and Shirley problem. We'll come on back after this.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
That might be the next door neighbor that I would not want to be living next to more than anyone else. That disembodied voice.
He calls you Viviani, so
I've had that through my life. That's all right. I don't really mind.
You don't mind that?
Much. No, that's okay.
All right,
David Kahn. So we're back. Everything Old is New Again, discussing who's the best next door neighbor of all time, and I think we're down to, you correct me if I'm wrong, Norton versus Kramer at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you on Kramer.
Really? You don't think Norton is up there?
I think Norton is. No, I would probably go with someone else, to be honest with you. But I think it's a good argument.
Oh, who else would you go with? Who would be in the running?
I'd say Bill Daly's. Like we referred to the actor Bill Daly, because he's been two different neighbors.
Correct.
But I would say either of the two neighbors or Rhoda would be.
Okay. Now, did you know Bill Daly had a show, the Bill Daly Show?
No.
Yes. After
Really?
what's it called? Bob Newhart show. He did a show where he was a vet. And he carried the show. And I saw it. It's on YouTube. You can check it out, or other venue. And it is absolutely horrendous.
Really?
Yes.
Ah.
Really bad. I don't know if that affected me in my thinking in preparation of the show or not.
Interesting.
But it lasted, I think, like 22 episodes.
That many? I don't even. What was it called? Do you remember?
I think it's the Bill Daly show, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I've seen him in recent interviews at I'm not going to say Comic-Cons, but conventions with Barbara Eden, and he's still sharp as ever. He's a cool guy. He's very down to earth. He's not like Vivian Vance, from what I understand. He's a very nice guy. And I loved him, but I don't think he has things that you remember. You remember where he walked. You remember him reaching into his top pocket.
Right.
That's really being obscure now. But I don't think that he's in the ballpark.
All right,
of Ed Norton.
but I
You know
think it's
Ed
fair.
Norton's quotes and things.
Yes. Okay. So Norton and Kramer, I could buy that.
I would say also Norton and Kramer have something in common with they're not really. They're great foils and they're great supportive characters, but they weren't really business savvy, or they never got themselves involved with great business ventures.
You mean to say that you have invented a household utensil to do the work of all of these?
Not only will this helpful housewife Happy Handy do all the work of these old instruments, but it will also do them better.
Can it Corey Apple?
Oh, it can Corey Apple.
Yo-yo ma. What? Yo-yo ma? Gara facendo no. What's wrong with you? What are you doing? Give me that phone.
And when I told him my idea about the beach cologne, he laughed at me.
You're very live, aren't you? Very graceful.
Well, yeah.
Plant your feet firmly on the ground and address the ball.
What do they mean by address the ball?
I think I know what it means there. Plant your feet firmly. Hello, ball.
Forget that. I got a better idea. A pizza place where you make your own pie. I got it now, Norton.
Well, I'm trying to get ahead. Well, I'm sorry. There's just no way that we could keep you on.
I don't even really work here.
That's what makes this so difficult.
No, I don't want your business. And at this moment, you're banned from this store. You're banned.
But what am I going to do for fruit?
If my wife Trixie's looking in, and when I get home, she says, I told you so. I'm going to tell her right in the mouth.
Just a little snippet of the best of these characters in the business sense, in the sort of the business world, and of course I have to throw Jackie Gleason in there. It's just any excuse to put Jackie Gleason on the air is going to improve our ratings immeasurably, I'm sure.
Yeah, among those 90 and older. Listen, I think that those guys are great, and because they're iconic, they're one of a kind. They created characters that still people know. For the most part, they remember Norton.
And propelled those shows to success for years and years and years and years, both of them. Right. Question is, and it's interesting, neither of them, Art Carney did a little bit more than Mr. Richards, Michael Richards. They had never had success after being these best iconic next door neighbors. Art Carney did Harry and Tonto, and I think at least was nominated. May have won an Oscar for that.
I believe so.
But other than that, he didn't do a heck of a lot either that is extraordinarily memorable after hitting the mark on these.
Right, and Michael Richards too. He ran into trouble with that the cracks he was making doing stand-up.
Yeah, now he's shot.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Maybe we'll have him on. He's probably
has he sunk that low?
He'll probably accept our telephone call at this point.
I don't know. He's got a few more stand-up routines, I think, before he comes on this show.
Well, I would suggest that if we now label him the best next-door neighbor of all time, maybe he will go ahead and return our call. I'll send him this tape in advance of our show, or the website, everythingoldisnewagain.biz. There's a podcast of every show. Feel free to go back and look at that. That being the case, let's look and see. I just thought it would be fun to see what would Kramer be like if he replaced Ed Norton on The Honeymooners.
You're getting heavy. You look like you put on 5-10 pounds.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Chubbs. If that yogurt has fat in it, I will put myself on an all-yogurt diet for a week.
All right, get up! Get up!
Giddy up.
That was good. That was good.
I tried. I had limited time in preparation of these shows, and so I do actually have another day job once in a while. But I thought that was funny. We could juxtapose the two of them.
Yeah,
and they would work.
They would. I think Kramer would have worked on The Honeymooners, and I think Ed Norton would have worked on Seinfeld.
I do I agree with that, and that maybe is the reason why they're so on the top of the list, because they are characters that bring so much to the show. And you mention any of them to anyone, and we're here in the studio here, even just listening to the clips, and Mike, our engineer, and other people are sitting around. There's a ton of people watching us here at the glass booth at MacArthur
The baggage
Airport.
claim.
Next to the baggage claim. They have no choice. They're waiting for their bags. They're listening to the show, and they're listening, laughing as well. So it's...
Yes, he is the guy by the baggage claim. So if we had a real life, one of these characters were a real life neighbor of ours, who would it be for you? Who would you like to have as an actual neighbor?
Well, if I had to, because all of them are a little annoying, I think Norton would be my man, because he's much more supportive and integral in helping solve problems, at least trying to. I can go through example, but when Ralph throws his back out, there's Norton helping him out, and it just goes on and on. Where I don't know that Kramer is that supportive of his compadres.
Kramer just brings crazy into your life, as a neighbor.
That kind of leads me to a question of a change in society. In
what about me? What about who I would like as a neighbor?
Oh, I have to respond with that? I have to. Oh, all right, yeah.
No, you don't.
Who would you like?
No, I'm not going to tell you now. You're going to have to guess.
No, really, I think you would want Valerie Harper as your next door neighbor.
How did you know?
You told me in the commercial break.
Okay.
That's the reason why I kind of forgot to ask you. But why would she be the one?
Because she's, a very supportive person. She's a really nice person. I'm talking about Rhoda, not Valerie Harper, right?
Right. Because Valerie Harper's not supportive.
Huh? Well, we're talking about the character living next door to you. So Rhoda, I think, is she's funny. She's very sharp-witted. She's my kind of gal, Doug. What can I tell you? I'd like to have her as a neighbor.
Another one that was on Dancing with the Stars, by the way.
Yes,
which
that's
would
right.
be a good move for Michael Richards, I think. Just as an aside.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Two things to discuss with him when he comes on our show in 2027 as he retires. On the other side of the fence, I think that, just a serious note for a moment, does that change or is that difference in characters between the next door neighbor in today's world versus back in the 50s reflect maybe a change in our society that maybe we don't really admire or have time for these next door neighbors in our lives?
Because there are no next door neighbors on sitcoms anymore, right? I mean, we were racking our brain trying to think of who would be a next door neighbor. In the last 10 or 15 years, we couldn't come up with that.
No, I mean, there's Penny, but she on Big Bang, but she is really integral in the show, and
it's an ensemble.
Not a guest, right? She's not a guest star, so there's none that just knock on the door and wreak havoc or support them. So I think what we have is a change in society where both people are working now. We can't foster neighbors as the way we did in relationships between the neighbors as we used to do. We hang out more with your children's parents, children's friends' parents, more than the person that lives next door. Believe it or not, because that's where you're at the soccer game. You're never home,
right?
To listen to or have.
I mean, do you have a lot of interaction with your neighbors?
No, we do, I should say, but not a lot. I wouldn't call it a lot. All of it is great, but you can see that everyone's stuff's going on. Right. Everyone's got stuff going on and have a very difficult time keeping up with trying to foster a new friendship.
I agree. It's not part of society, and it's not part of sitcoms.
Right, exactly. This is what we'll talk about in a few minutes. Come on back. So in recap, then, you're saying that that society has changed, and you think that Kramer reflects that.
I think if you saw an actual next-door neighbor interact with a family on a sitcom today, I don't think a lot of people would relate to it. as much as they did 20, 30 years ago.
Obviously, because it's not happening. You
Right,
know?
right.
My children aren't seeing the next door neighbor and know them. Like, she'll see me talk to Angelica, my little girl, 5-year-old, will see me talk to the neighbor and say, "Who's that?" She's 5, almost 6. You kind of think you would know at that age who who I'm talking to by
Right.
name if I knew them that much. When I was growing up, I knew my parents' friends for sure. They were over the house on Friday
You
nights.
saw them pretty often, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not something that's really happening a lot now. It's a shame. I think our society's changed maybe for the worse.